We'll just seeing you next time on The Chase Australia.
Tonight on 7 News, a tragedy unfolding at Cannon Hill. A 4-year-old girl dead inside a house.
School's back for all grades. Celebrations for students, teachers and parents.
Containers lost. Big seas prove a battle for ships, but a bonus for surfers as a giant storm rips through the west.
Exclusive, the Southeast's hotel hell. Mass evictions of guests thanks to a handful of troublemakers.
Inside their flagship facility as Australia Post works through an enormous backlog of parcels ordered during lockdown.
And frustration over the lack of vacancies at after-school care. Advice for parents.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Sharyn, Ghidella and Max Futcher.
Good evening. Police are tonight carrying out a major investigation into the death of a 4-year-old girl at Cannon Hill.
Her body was discovered inside a home this morning after an emergency call to 000.
School drop-off.
It's all happening here.
Police, ambulance, but there was no one to save, no one to protect. A 4-year-old girl who required treatment for an existing condition was already dead inside a home she shared with people meant to care for her.
There was a couple little children. I seen one little child. That was definitely a little child, about 2 in nappies there, talking to a police officer.
Someone made a 000 call at 9:20 this morning. At least 12 police and ambulance crews rushed to the Cannon Hill house. Several people were taken away by police for questioning. We can't show you their faces to protect other children who, at the very least, could be witnesses to a dreadful crime or survivors themselves. Detectives are investigating whether the 4-year-old died of neglect. Cannon Hill is a changing suburb with affluent pockets and poverty. The street is used by parents of 1,000 children at Cannon Hill Anglican College. Entry to its primary pickup spot was closed on the first day back at school. In an email to parents this morning, the principal said, "You have no need to be fearful. Your children are safe," unlike a little girl just 200 metres away. Her medical condition is the focus of this investigation. Did she receive treatment? And if not, why not? A large team of medical experts is consulting with police. They say this investigation could be complex and long.
Thanks, Erin. It's the day students and parents have been waiting for. School for all grades is back in across Queensland. Principals and teachers pulling out all the stops as the next generation learns to navigate the new normal.
Through a bright balloon arch.
Come everybody, we're spreading out nicely.
To the beat of a marching band. A special welcome getting St Stephen's students on the Gold Coast back into the groove.
I'm really happy of coming back to school and I hope I see my friends very soon.
A school drop-off like no other across the state. More than 600,000 students from grades 2 to 10 rejoining their peers after 5 weeks of learning from home.
Homeschooling kind of gets old after a little while.
Mixed emotions, mostly relief from parents who've juggled multiple roles.
Oh, it's paradise.
Hot coffee and relaxing for a couple of hours, hopefully quiet, peace and quiet.
It's so great to have some normality in our lives and a bit more routine.
Even if it is different for parents, school grounds are now off limits, strict hygiene practices commonplace, but students aren't required to socially distance.
So when you come in, we'll say good morning and I'll give you a squirt of the hand sanitizer.
We've got staggered drop-offs and pick-up times, staggered lunch breaks for all of our students.
If a student or teacher does test positive, principals have been told they must alert health authorities before the entire school is shut down and thoroughly cleaned for at least 2 days.
Now is not the time to send your child if they're not feeling well to school.
Coronavirus, a hot topic inside the classroom where Term 2 is essentially starting again. Today, recent graduate Savannah Epps-Camps first teaching face-to-face.
When I started at the school, we were already in online learning.
Excited to turn the page on a new chapter. Emily Arnold, 7 News.
A delicate salvage operation will get underway tomorrow when a stricken container ship berths in Brisbane. The APL England was smashed by wild seas, losing dozens of containers overboard as big swells caused dramas along our coastline.
Limping back to Brisbane with containers like toppled Lego blocks, the APL England was steaming for Melbourne yesterday when mountainous waves smashed into her off Sydney, knocking about 40 containers overboard. 74 more were damaged.
Most of them will go to the bottom, and it was around 2,000 metres of water that it was in at the time.
These are the conditions that did the damage. Here, Australia's largest warship pummeled by the full might of the East Coast low. This is the video shot from the bridge of the HMAS Canberra off Jarvis Bay. Waves crashed over the bow ramp 25 metres above the waterline. Large swells caused havoc on the Gold Coast Seaway too. This boat smashed, the skipper bloodied after a freak wave crashed into the runabout.
The boat was towed back in by VMR and there were 2 patients on board, both aged in their 50s.
The 3-metre swell even troubled the much larger dredge Discovery. Conditions treacherous for boating, a treat for surfers. Mick Fenning got some help from a jet ski to slot into this one by himself. On the other side of the continent, Western Australia is being lashed by a once-in-a-decade superstorm. There have been about 400 calls for help in Perth. The remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Manga are forecast to whip up more wild weather tomorrow. Amelia Adams, 7 News.
Antonia, frosty morning in the tropics.
Yes, Max, we don't just get frost in the south, but on a handful of occasions each year it pushes up into northern Queensland. And these pictures have come from the Atherton Tablelands, where it was an icy start to the day. While Cairns stayed in double figures this morning, the extra elevation meant that the highest ground over the Tablelands was able to drop closer to freezing. That's not over just yet. This is the frost forecast for tomorrow. It will be patchy, but again extending from the usual spots down towards the Granite Belt all the way up into far northern Queensland. I'll be back soon with the forecast.
Thanks, Tony. 3 men have faced court charged with the murder of a teenager who fell to his death on the Gold Coast. Kian English fell from the 4th storey of a unit complex while trying to escape. He was only 19 years old.
It's Friday night on the Gold Coast. A group of friends party in Surfers Paradise, surrounded by drugs and alcohol. This is the night 19-year-old Kian English was allegedly murdered. 18-year-old Lachlan Sopalagas, 20-year-old Hayden Kratzman,
disaster. Head's been a wreck since I messed with the calmers.
And 22-year-old Jason Knowles faced court today, charged with his murder, as well as armed robbery and deprivation of liberty.
Very concerning, and there's a family that's grieving. It's awful, absolutely awful. And, I just urge everyone, especially young people, please be safe.
Police believe the trio tried to rob Mr English of his clothes and shoes at knife point while under the influence of drugs. He tried to escape off the balcony of the 4th floor of the View Pacific apartments, but fell to his death.
All 3 men will remain behind bars. Their matter has been moved to Southport, where they'll next face court on the 4th of August.
The English family left to mourn a senseless tragedy. Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
2 boys aged 16 and 10 have died when a Land Cruiser rolled on a dirt track at Mount Abundance near Roma. Among the dead, Archie Goldson, a Year 11 student at Brisbane's prestigious Churchy School. Students and teachers today gathering arm in arm to pray for their former classmate. 2 other 16-year-old boys, the driver of the vehicle and another passenger, were taken to hospital with serious injuries. No charges have been laid. The door has been opened for some pubs, cafes and restaurants to fast-track their recovery and welcome more patrons. But Queensland's borders remain a vexed issue, with our closure potentially costing some an overseas holiday.
Savouring the first post-shutdown sip, a beer never tasted so good for patrons at the Everton Park Hotel. It can hold 500, but today reopened with an intimate crowd.
With the current restrictions, we can have 10, which means we can operate our cafe and not much else.
But like many venues, they're hoping and planning for much greater numbers, submitting a COVID-safe plan.
We can make sure that there's social distancing in place and safe practices to accommodate for a lot more than 10 to 20 people.
0 new cases were confirmed today in Queensland. There are just 12 active cases, prompting positive discussions about allowing more than 20 people into pubs and clubs at mid-June's stage 2 of the recovery.
If the COVID-safe plans are in place, they will be allowed to have more in. So at the end of this month, we'll be able to make that decision.
And that's also when border restrictions will be reviewed by the government. For now, there's no plans to open them, and that decision could impact people with travel plans beyond just the Sunshine State. The proposed trans-Tasman travel bubble with New Zealand could hinge on state borders opening.
We'd expect to see some of those issues resolved before we would see them necessarily opening up to New Zealand, and you can understand why. People want to be able to travel internally in Australia before they'd expect necessarily to be able to come across the ditch.
Every other state and territory has their borders closed except for New South Wales and Victoria, so we are not alone.
Joel Dry, 7 News.
A predicted peak hour rush as workers returned to the city this morning did not happen. Instead, traffic flowed smoothly and public transport was empty as businesses kept many employees out of the office.
The drive to work, hardly a peak hour rush. The Story Bridge, Coronation Drive and the Western Freeway onto Milton Road, all a smooth run. The city hotspot was the Walter Taylor Bridge at Indooroopilly, a crawl as parents drove children to school before returning home, leaving plenty of seats on public transport. Peak hour calm at Central Station mirrored across the southeast.
The car park where we pull into the station at Rothwell, where we live, it's almost vacant.
We're now carrying about 70% less customers than what we normally would be.
Clear signs the CBD workforce is not ready to come back.
It's 9 o'clock and there's nobody here.
Probably we haven't seen the jump that we thought we might have.
The heart of the business district, Eagle Street, barely raising a pulse. Many businesses say they won't bring workers back into the office until the second week of July, coinciding with stage 3 restrictions. Barriers are ready to siphon workers to lifts with social distancing.
My number one concern is keeping my team safe, so we're not going to rush back.
Zooming and Skyping, staying for now, however.
I just can't wait to be back amongst everybody in the city.
A city of workers in different boats, but in the same storm. Steve Titmus, 7 News.
The Prime Minister will argue he needs to take the economy out of ICU during a major speech in Canberra tomorrow. Scott Morrison will reveal more of his government's roadmap out of the COVID crisis. Today, his Treasurer tried to defend the massive JobKeeper miscalculation.
The good and the bad of a $60 billion blunder.
The good news,
badly implemented.
Good news for the taxpayer.
Badly communicated.
Good news for the budget.
Badly budgeted.
From what it wasn't.
It wasn't a target, it wasn't a ceiling, it was an initial estimate.
To what Labor says it is.
The worst budget stuff-up in the history of the Commonwealth.
But one that has saved $60 billion. Some might be redirected towards further support for the tourism and aviation sectors, but not to include those left out of JobKeeper, like public university staff.
21,000 full-time equivalent jobs are on the line at universities across Australia.
Or short-term casuals or workers in arts and entertainment.
The Treasurer's already made clear there are not going to be any wholesale changes to the program.
Hundreds of thousands now on the dole or drawing down on their super. $13.2 billion in early access to super. A third of applicants, 450,000, aged under 30.
We're robbing from future generations. Australians have had to pay for their own stimulus.
Tomorrow, Scott Morrison will outline his government's plan to revive the Australian economy. The timeline between 3 and 5 years. His marketing line: it's time to take the economy out of the ICU. A shake-up of skills training and vocational education and stepping onto a traditional political battlefield. Major reforms to industrial relations, putting the new consensus between government, business and unions to serious test. Mark Riley, 7 News. The Education Minister has been referred to the corruption watchdog after admitting mentioning the recruitment of Dutton Park High School's principal to Jackie Trad. The LNP says Grace Grace's contradicting statements don't make sense after she had earlier claimed ministers were never involved.
I am happy to cooperate with the Triple C in any way that they deem appropriate.
The Premier says that if Ms Grace was included in the probe, the minister would stand aside.
An earthquake has sent tremors through the New Zealand capital. A 5.8 magnitude quake sent aftershocks spanning almost the length of the country. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern was live on TV, staying calm as Wellington began to shake.
But it is... We're just having a bit of an earthquake here, Ryan. Quite a decent shake here.
No injuries or structural damage have been reported.
Boris Johnson's party has begun turning on him as he tries to defend his senior advisor, who's accused of flouting lockdown rules. One newspaper calls Dominic Cummings and the British Prime Minister a cheat and a coward. Even the Conservative Daily Mail has asked what planet are they on. And now police have been asked to investigate.
Boris Johnson hasn't given a press conference in 2 weeks, but this damaging scandal he can't ignore.
Is this government asking you, the people, the public, to do one thing, while senior people here in government do something else?
His most senior advisor, the centre of a political storm.
How many times have you left London during the lockdown, Mr Cummings? The nation would love to know.
Dominic Cummings accused of travelling hundreds of kilometres to his parents' hometown while his wife had coronavirus symptoms, along with their 4-year-old child.
I believe that in every respect he has acted responsibly and legally and with integrity.
Dominic Cummings wields enormous influence, the mastermind of the Brexit campaign and Boris Johnson's election strategy. But even Brexiteers have had enough.
I'm afraid Dominic just won't play ball with these norms of democracy.
Pundits believe Boris Johnson is quickly burning through valuable political capital by continuing to defend his right-hand man at a time when the government is trying to ease the British public out of lockdown after one of the deadliest COVID outbreaks in the world. Now facing a police investigation, Dominic Cummings emerged from number 10 in a T-shirt and tracksuit pants, safe in his job but facing the wrath of his neighbours. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
She owes her life to a quick-thinking commuter. How a last-minute dash for a train almost turned deadly.
Aussies donated millions to Celeste Barber's bushfire campaign. Why many victims will not see a cent.
Crashing down the final seconds as a power station is destroyed.
And before weather, exclusive, the Southeast Hotel hell where everyone's been evicted.
Seven News, brought to you by Aussie.
Home. It's not just a place we're stuck in. It's home-cooked meals, home workouts, homeschooling, working from home, home movie nights, and movie days. It's see you when I get home. Your home means more than ever, and so does having the right home loan. To understand your options, go straight to Aussie. We'll help ensure you have the right loan for right now.
Just 1 point separates them all.
This is a week that counts.
But what happens when the judges don't agree?
Really clever space.
The bathroom.
It's dividing this whole room up. You have to move in and out.
The bedroom.
This is the sort of detail that you'd see in a Grand Hamptons home. You're wrong.
You be the judge.
I literally stopped breathing.
Who could get eliminated on New House Rules? Tonight, 7:30.
A lot of us are spending more time at home.
Ow.
Using a lot more electricity and internet. Unfortunately, iSelect can't help with your naked partner walking past your big presentation. But we could help shrink those household bills. Now's the time to compare, select and save with iSelect on 13 19 20.
There's a glass and a half in everyone.
Going crazy stuck at home? Want help to cook up some fun? Why not get your Hungry Jack's flame-grilled favourites delivered now with Uber Eats or Menulog? With easier online ordering, the burgers are better at Hungry Jack's.
We remain dedicated to helping Australians. We've introduced a help program with a range of relief options to assist customers currently in need. Call us to find out how we can tailor help options for you.
Outside, it's something to look at. But inside, it's a space to be. A space we fit our lives into. A space that brings us closer. That spans generations. Where we go to let go. In a Mazda, This space is 100 years in the making and summed up in 2 words. Zoom, zoom.
iSelect can't help with your naked partner walking past your big presentation, but we could help shrink your electricity and internet bills while you're stuck at home. Compare, select and save with iSelect.
Tasty, affordable and delicious. What's for dinner in the next break with Coles?
A young woman has been dragged along a Sydney platform after her arm got stuck in the train doors. The incident was caught on camera and unfolded in front of horrified onlookers. A quick-thinking platform attendant has been praised for saving her life, alerting a guard who hit an emergency button to stop the train. The woman was badly shaken but wasn't hurt.
Tens of millions of dollars raised by comedian Celeste Barber won't go to victims of the devastating summer bushfires after a ruling in the Supreme Court. It'll instead be used for equipment, training and for injured firefighters and families of those killed in the line of duty.
It was a crowdfunding effort for the history books, but after losing homes and livelihoods, bushfire victims won't be seeing a cent of the $51 million raised by Celeste Barber.
Her appeal was a spectacular success.
The court finding the money held in trust by the New South Wales RFS Brigade's donation fund can't be allocated to other states and charities.
Despite the trustees' wish to honour those intentions or hopes, the law provides principles that ensure a degree of certainty in the application of trust funds.
We just express our extreme gratitude to Celeste Barber for the fundraising she did. I'm sorry if people did donate inadvertently.
Victims across the country still desperate for help, like Justin and Helena Cam, who lost their home.
It is indeed disappointing.
And in Malakuta, Victoria, which still bears the scars.
It's really unfortunate and I absolutely don't blame Celeste for that.
The money can be used to buy and maintain equipment and for training and operational costs, to support injured firefighters and the families of those killed, along with physical and mental trauma services. There is one last hope to unlock the money for bushfire victims, a bill set to be debated at New South Wales Parliament next week. It seeks to broaden the terms of the RFS Trust. $20 million has already been allocated. Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Israel's longest-serving Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is the country's first to go on trial while in office. He's facing 3 corruption cases. One involves Australian billionaire James Packer. Mr Netanyahu is also accused of granting $780 million in regulatory favours to a telecommunications company. He denies any wrongdoing, saying his opponents are out to topple him.
Pope Francis has blessed worshippers gathered at the Vatican for the first time since Italy's coronavirus lockdown began. The pontiff made a brief appearance from the papal window as the faithful below observed social distancing and wore protective masks. The area was undergoing deep cleaning to make it COVID-free as much as possible.
A push to cancel fireworks displays over summer almost brought the industry to its knees. Why the government wants to hear from you about the future of fireworks in Queensland.
How did a boat end up on top of a car on the Gold Coast?
How parents are struggling to find after-school care spots as children return to the classroom.
And after sport, where Inside Australia Post's Red Bank sorting facility, the plan to get deliveries to you faster.
Southeast Queensland hotel hell. Violence, noise, drugs. Workers fearing for their safety.
I don't feel safe getting to work in the morning.
Dozens kicked out because of a handful of troublemakers. The hotspots in the city and suburbs. A special investigation on 7 News. Coming up.
Hello, Angela. I have been watching you.
I came from Africa with nothing but a suitcase. My family is everything. I love my children. At home, I'm a mom. At work, I'm a boss. I can be all that and more.
I am Big Brother, and I've chosen you.
I'll do anything to win.
Oh, really? How do you plan to eliminate the others?
I'll sweet talk you during the day and I'll vote you out at night with a smile. Mean, but I like it.
I am Big Brother. Who wins? You decide.
Hi everyone, Kylie Miller here. Tonight I'm going to share with you a recipe that's going to transport you to Italy and back without even leaving your own kitchen. It's my roast pumpkin, spinach and ricotta caramelli pasta. The first thing we're going to do is make our filling for the pasta. So for the roast pumpkin, all I've done is popped a piece of pumpkin in the oven with the skin and the seeds still in there, a little bit of salt, a little bit of oil, and roasted it until it's nice and soft. You leave it to cool and it's really easy to peel. So all you need to do is just pull off the skin, taking out the seeds, and just using a spoon, just break it up. So we're going to season up the pumpkin with a little bit of salt and some pepper. And then that's our first filling ready to go. The next one, we've got some ricotta and just some frozen spinach that I've squeezed all the moisture out of there. A little bit of salt and pepper again, and then give it a good mix. So we have our two fillings and we're ready to assemble. Instead of making pasta at home, what I'm using are some fresh lasagna sheets, and we're just going to cut them to size. So I'm cutting them into three. Just going to lay them out. So I can take some of the ricotta filling, some of the pumpkin. I'm just going to put a little bit of egg wash around the pasta and then just rolling it up. So it's like a little bonbon, a Christmas cracker. The next thing we're going to do is to cook our pasta and make a brown butter and sage sauce to go with it. So all I'm going to do first, is into a pan, just pop some butter and let that melt down. At the same time I've got some water just on a really slow simmer, and we're going to pop our caramelli pastas into the water. So probably about 5 to 7 minutes. And the butter is starting to smell delicious. It's slowly starting to get a little bit of a caramelly colour. I've got some sage that I'm just going to pick the leaves off and throw it in. So I've just put all the pasta in the pan, give it a good swirl around so you're coating the pasta with all that beautiful brown butter and sage. And I'm just going to finish it with a little bit of lemon juice just to brighten it up. So we're ready to plate the pasta. The pasta water and the butters combine really nicely together to create a really rich, creamy sauce. And I'm just going to put it into the serving dish. I'm going to add a little bit of salt on top, and there you have it. My roast pumpkin, spinach and ricotta caramelli pasta. For this recipe and more What's for Dinner recipes, visit coles.com.au.
Australia's bushfire crisis forced the cancellation of New Year's Eve fireworks in many parts of the country, sparking heated debate. Now, Queenslanders are being asked what they think as the government looks for ways to improve safety.
A tradition at New Year's Eve, the centrepiece of river fire and popular every night of the Ekka.
It's something, people always look forward to.
But as the Australian bushfire crisis showed, attitudes towards fireworks are mixed.
What was the cause of spending all that money for silly firework?
The state government wants to know exactly how Queenslanders feel, launching a community survey to ask how often residents hear fireworks, how often they attend displays, how safe they feel, and what the notification radius should be.
200 metres is okay. More than 2-3 Ks.
Operators believe it would be possible to notify residents living within a 2-kilometre zone from displays, but in urban areas it would be very difficult to contact people individually.
I use a lot of electronic media and social pages these days to notify, and you can get the word out a whole lot more than you used to be able to with just a flyer in a letterbox.
The government is planning to update the industry's code of practice, brought in after a young girl was killed by a firework at a Bray Park school 20 years ago.
There's nothing in there, I think, that needs changing dramatically, but just you polish around the edges.
The survey runs until Friday week. Rosanna Kingson, 7 News.
A Gold Coast driver has found himself underneath a boat after crashing his car into its parked trailer at Palm Beach. The vehicle became wedged below the hull after the senior driver apparently suffered a medical episode.
It made one hell of a noise. We thought it was a truck had hit another car or something.
The driver was taken to hospital with minor head injuries.
US-China relations are edging closer to breaking point, with one White House official likening the alleged COVID-19 cover-up to Chernobyl after China made threats of a new Cold War with America. With that battle escalating, the US took action against the new global epicentre, Brazil.
For a second day, Donald Trump headed for the golf course after more swings at China over the pandemic.
This is a hit. It came out of China. It's a very terrible thing, and they could have stopped it if they wanted to. They could have stopped it. Either it was incompetent or they didn't want to.
But as his tone has changed...
It came out of China, and it's one of those things that happen. Nobody's fault.
So has China's. Its foreign minister today accused politicians of fabricating lies and conspiracies. Some American political forces are pushing Sino-US relations to a so-called new Cold War. The White House unrepentant, comparing China's actions to a disaster from the old Cold War days.
The cover-up that they did of the virus is going to go down in history along with Chernobyl.
Taking action today, targeting the world's newest hotspot. Visitors from Brazil banned from entering the US as the virus spreads out of control in its poorest areas.
I'm very afraid because we are reaching levels of mortality each day that is very, very bad.
Brazil's president and friend of Donald Trump is against social distancing, here mixing with anti-lockdown protesters, but at another event heckled and called a killer. In the United States, Paul Kadak, 7 News.
Queensland's famous Birdsville Races has become the latest big-ticket event to be claimed by COVID-19. Organisers concede it would not be viable to hold the event this year. The race will resume in September 2021.
After waiting weeks for school to resume, parents could be back looking after the kids in a month. A 50% reduction in income due to the free childcare policy means some vacation care centres can only afford spots for children of essential workers.
It's paramount for working parents with kids in primary school, but before and after school care have been hit hard by COVID.
At a service that was sitting at around 195 children an afternoon prior to COVID, on our worst day we had 7.
The government's free childcare policy kept providers afloat, but as enrolments go back to normal, it's proving problematic. Paid 50% of their regular income to deliver the same service.
We're only getting half of the cost of the childcare.
Many can't afford to run a full service and have or will cut places, priority going to children of essential workers.
So reducing numbers in vacation care to 60 instead of our usual 195.
Providers still don't know when the free childcare policy will end. It's set for review on the 28th of June, a day after Term 2 holidays start.
Our focus is on ensuring that we can look after as many kids as possible. So if that scheme's in place, that does limit us.
Centres hoping for the policy to return to normal so the rest of the world can too.
Normal routine for children and families.
Georgie Chumley, 7 News.
There are fresh concerns about Queensland's construction industry tonight. Calls for a $40,000 new home grant to save thousands of jobs.
Gone in 60 seconds, the Australian power station reduced to rubble.
Diabetes warning the disease linked to a spike in cancer and dementia.
And the southeast hotels turns danger zones while some workers are fearing for their safety.
I'm your dad. Why'd you choose now to come and find me? You're just taking me for a ride.
When he finds out the true reason his dad's here, it could break his heart.
You need to tell him what's going on. If you don't tell him, I will.
Home and Away, next on 7.
Rugby league hard man Corey Parker has won it all. He doesn't do gags, he doesn't do pranks, but he does play KFC Supercoach. Register today at supercoach.com.au.
1, 2, 3, 4. So clap it back. Hey, clap, clap. So clap it back. Hey, I'm getting you right back. 'Cause you're not gonna stand around living like that. So clap it back. Clap it. Clap, clap. Alright. So clap it back. Hey.
Centrum provides multiple health benefits in just one tablet. Centrum, complete from A to Zinc.
Great Wall end of financial year value is now on. Get a brand new petrol dual cab or diesel single cab with a free tray and a 5-year warranty from only $19,990. That's right, from just $19,990 drive away. Great Wall, it's built to work.
Save 20% on your second policy when you buy new, eligible Suncorp home and car insurance together before July 10. Helping you save when you need it most. That's the Suncorp spirit.
Every day, we work to make our networks stronger and more reliable. So even when we can't be close, we can still be connected together.
Want to sell something for instant cash? We're open. Looking to buy from a huge range of quality second-hand goods for less? We're open. Cash Converters. Find us online or visit us in store.
Shut up and take my money.
Businesses are facing an overwhelming amount of information. Business Australia can help you get the answers to your toughest questions with our free business advice lines. Get the support you need at businessaustralia.com.
The finance and trade tensions that brought the market down last week could not be seen today. The ASX hit an 11-week high, rising 2%. The technology sector performed well, pushed up by another record day for Afterpay. It jumped nearly 9%. The Australian dollar is buying 65 US cents and 70.3 Japanese yen. And if you need fuel, prices are going down, but we aren't in the cheap phase of the cycle just yet. The average price for unleaded is $1.04. The building industry has renewed its calls for an economic lifeline to boost residential construction. With a steep drop in demand for new houses, experts say economic data shows a $40,000 new home grant would save thousands of jobs.
As a shower, screen and window installer, business is good for Steve Walker at the moment.
We have been busy because people are wanting their houses completed, but we haven't got a lot coming up in the near future.
Coronavirus halting new home sales over the past 2 months and having a flow-on effect.
Well, we'll be getting laid off and we'll be all on the dole lines.
Building and construction industry leaders repeating calls for government stimulus.
So that somewhere between August, September and October, we can actually get the economy back on its feet so that it's got half a chance to recover over the next 12 months.
New economic modelling shows a proposed $40,000 new home grant would lead to an extra 2,300 homes being built in Queensland, creating almost 12,000 jobs.
And for every dollar that the government spends on this, they'll get $2.50 back in the economy.
The Master Builders Association says a government decision would need to be made quickly on the new home building grant to avoid construction delays and future job losses. A proposal the Queensland government says it's considering.
We really need to see our construction industry come back bigger and stronger, so we're open to those conversations.
An urgent conversation to keep tradies on the tools. Elliot Chipper, 7 News.
The 8 chimneys of Victoria's Hazelwood Power Station have come crashing down in spectacular fashion as part of demolition works. It took less than a minute for the 137-metre chimney stacks to fall to the ground. The coal-fired station was shut down in 2017 after more than 50 years of operation. The whole site is expected to be demolished by 2022. New research has found that those with type 2 diabetes are at much greater risk of dementia and some deadly cancers. Making it worse, COVID-19 concerns mean many aren't getting checked, missing the chance to catch problems early.
Warren Bingham was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 3 years ago. It's not just the metabolic disease he's managing, he's also 60% more likely to develop dementia.
It's a pretty scary statistic.
Researchers at the Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute analysed data from more than 2 million people, finding those with type 2 diabetes are 8 times more likely to develop heart failure. For bowel cancer, a 50% greater risk. Breast cancer is 20%, and they're 10 times more likely to get end-stage kidney disease. The link worrying for type 2 diabetic and colon cancer survivor Robert Miller.
You've got to be proactive about looking after yourself.
And even more so for type 2 diabetics under 40 who will live with the disease for decades. It's estimated it could shave 6 years off their life.
It's one thing to be diagnosed and to be living with a chronic disease, but then to go through and learn that there are bigger and greater risks out there. It's not a pleasant thing to have to think about.
These numbers are particularly concerning to diabetes support groups who say they've seen a decline in patients getting their regular checks and blood tests since the start of COVID-19.
Going to your GP, going to your diabetes health professional is really, really critical, even during this period.
Amber Laidler, 7 News.
Coming up, working through a parcel backlog inside Australia Post's biggest sorting facility right here in the southeast. And the local hotels that turned homeless shelters, why neighbours are concerned. And are Victorians concerned we've hijacked AFL, Webby?
I think they should be, Sharyn. Hello, everyone. The revamped draw. How many games will Queensland host? Massive contract news for two Maroons. As a former Origin captain gives his bold premiership prediction on the Broncos. And incredible news after the incredible response to last night's story on BMX bandit Kai.
Just 1 point separates them all.
This is a week that counts.
But what happens when the judges don't agree?
Really clever space.
The bathroom.
It's dividing this whole room up. You have to move in and out.
The bedroom.
This is the sort of detail that you'd see in a Grand Hamptons home. You're wrong.
You be the judge.
I literally stopped breathing.
Who could get eliminated on New House Rules? Tonight, 7:30.
It doesn't matter where you're going if you enjoy getting there. The BMW X1 S-Drive 18i from 49,900 drive away. Joy is coming.
Thanks to Light and Easy, Australians of all ages can enjoy their choice of delicious, nutritious meals in the comfort and safety of their own home. Especially those at a greater health risk during these times. If you or someone close to you could benefit by having Light and Easy meals delivered safely with our contactless delivery service, visit lightandeasy.com.au or call us on 13 15 12.
Someone save me! If you're gonna wear a red lip, commit to it. Not the guy, the lip.
Somebody, come on.
There's a glass and a half in everyone.
Guys, we've got another jackpot winner.
Ozlotto, will your numbers bring you a truckload of cash this Tuesday?
Play now in-store at thelot.com or on the Lot app.
With Belong, you get 10 gigs of mobile data for $25 a month. That's 10 gigs of family time. Plus, unlimited international calls and texts to selected countries for $5 extra. Together, we're different. Belong.
Win your town's $1.69 million prize home draw. Choose Country Coastal Living in Berry on New South Wales South Coast or Magical Umundi on the Sunshine Coast. Only 400,000 tickets available at $15 each. Buy now at yourtown.com.au.
Australians of all ages are choosing Light and Easy. Light and Easy can even assist those on aged care home care packages. If you or someone close to you could benefit by having healthy meals delivered, call us on 13 15 12.
Premiership material. That's the bold call from Broncos legend Trevor Gilmister about the 2020 Brisbane side. Even though Anthony Seibol's team is the competition's youngest, the Axe believes they have created something special.
Gilmister knows what it takes to carry the trophy home. Back-to-back titles under Bennett in the 90s.
And Gilmeister scores!
He sees similar desire in Seabold's side, adamant they can break the club's 14-year premiership drought.
I think they're a big chance, not only just to make the finals, but they could go all the way this year and win the premiership.
A prediction many will shoot down, considering last year's finals capitulation to the Eels, the team they resumed their season against on Thursday.
I think they overachieved, in fact, last year.
We don't have that in the back of our mind. We're just going to be going out there and playing our game and trying to keep our streak going.
They do need David Futcher on the field if they're going to go a long way in the semi-finals. But yeah, mate, I'm pretty keen on them this year. I think they'll do really well.
A major reason? The signing of organising half Brodie Croft.
That's what they need, some direction, and I think that'll take a lot of pressure off Anthony Milford, who just wants to roam around the field.
They could miss Andrew McCulloch if injuries strike. The 13-season Bronco admitting diminishing minutes, part of why he left the club.
They're always tough when you've been at a place for so long and it's all you've known. But then you go look at the other thing, the aspect of getting out of my comfort zone, a new challenge, a new chapter.
7 News can reveal McCulloch is close to sealing his long-term future, poised to sign a multi-year deal with the Canterbury Bulldogs from 2021. Chris Garrett, 7 News.
Commission Chairman Peter V'landys has a new goal. This one, his most ambitious. Fans back in NRL stadiums within 2 months.
Our target date is the 1st of July, and that's really going to depend on the analysis between now and then. If the infection rate stays low and below the 1% that it is now, and it has been for 30 or 40 days, the risk is very minimal.
And in breaking news, Kalen Ponga has agreed to terms with Newcastle on a 5-year, $5.5 million extension. Reds players have spun disappointment into determination after 3 of their top players were shown the door for refusing to accept a pay cut. The mullet's gone for the skipper, so's the animosity. Liam Wright insisting the new haircut signifies a new start for Queensland, who've already replaced back rowers Isaac Rodder and Harry Hockings, plus playmaker Isaac Lucas.
I think it'll definitely be a positive for us. Again, it reaffirms that this group that's here really want to be here. We've lost some good mates, but, they'll still be our mates and they've made their decision.
Rugby Australia is working towards starting a domestic comp in July. The Lions and Suns are the big winners out of the AFL's revamped draw, saved from some of the hardest road trips in Australian sport. All but one of their next 4 games at home, including a primetime Saturday night blockbuster, which brings pressure of a different kind.
It's never been closer to train as you play. The first day of full contact at an empty Gabba, something the Lions will have to get used to.
If you're going to play finals, you've got to win your games at home, and so to have those first 4, that's important.
They'll be against the out-of-towners in the Gold Coast hub. Freo's first, Saturday afternoon, June 13. Then a primetime blockbuster against the Eagles a week later, followed by the Crows and Port. Playing each team once means no trips to Adelaide or Perth this year.
Yeah, look, that's a plus. Yeah, that is a plus, especially the Perth trip. That's a long way.
The Suns youngsters are safe from that too, revelling in training at full capacity.
Just get that game awareness, game sense just back. You can't do it in twos and small groups.
The Gold Coast host West Coast, first up on Saturday night before Adelaide, then the Dockers. But because they face Port in round 1, they're away to Geelong round 5. Still, Metricon gets 7 games in 4 weeks. 2 doubleheaders and a Thursday night. Eagles v the Premiers Richmond.
We wanted to take advantage of having West Coast up in Queensland and some of those big games. I think on a Thursday night up in Queensland, good weather, Metricon Stadium, I think it'll be a great contest.
The rest of the draws released fortnightly in the hope crowds may be allowed in at some stage.
You get people in and sit them in every third seat and, all that sort of thing. So we've done some modelling along that, but obviously that's determined by the various governments.
Ben Davis, 7 News.
After an enormous response to last night's story on BMX racer Kai Sakakibara, we want to share an update on his recovery. After 7 weeks in Sydney's Liverpool Hospital Brain Injury Unit, the Olympic hopeful's thrilled doctors with his progress.
That's a component that we can see in Kai, that the athlete is there. Every week there's been significant improvements.
One of Kai's next goals is to walk with his physios. And Sharyn, you wouldn't bet against him.
Oh, there's a will there, isn't there? Let's hope there's a way indeed. All right, thank you, Webby. Overwhelmed by a pandemic-fueled shopping spree, Australia Post bosses say they're almost on top of an enormous backlog. They invited 7 News inside their flagship facility that's now processing millions of parcels each week.
In the Southern Hemisphere's biggest shed, machine and man work as one.
Brilliant new high-tech facility.
Sorting the greatest number of parcels ever posted in Queensland, 32,000 per hour. They're tipped, weighed, scanned and conveyed, arriving from all over Australia and sent across the world. This operation started just before Christmas.
We just came off our biggest peak ever, and then all of a sudden we came into COVID-19.
At the peak of the curve, shoppers rushed online.
It absolutely took us by surprise.
A 75% increase on last year.
We think we've got over the hump, but it's absolutely a new normal because it is still 50% higher.
Redbank processes 400,000 parcels daily. What sets this facility apart from the others is the advanced technology, the use of robots like these automated forklifts, which work 24 hours a day, seamlessly moving these cages from A to B. But beyond dispatch, it's not so simple. Though they have their own fleet, Australia Post leans on domestic and international carriers.
Whenever there is a flight available, we are putting product on those flights.
This week, they've chartered extra to go overseas.
There's some going by sea freight as well.
Riding the COVID wave. Tom Hartley, 7 News.
Moved from the streets and into Brisbane hotel rooms. Next, a 7 News exclusive. Drugs, thefts and assaults, why local residents are concerned.
And at the moment it's 16 degrees in Ipswich. How long will this sunshine last? I'll have the forecast coming up next.
The total picture, the full story, the answers you need. Every night, turn to 7 News at 6 o'clock.
Introducing new U Foods grocery range. Get your week sorted with affordable, convenient groceries. Delivered safely to your door. Fresh, everyday items like poultry, meat, vegetables, dairy, and our delicious ready-made meals. Standing behind our local Aussie growers and helping you stay safe. We got you, Australia. ufoods.com.
Oh, baby, baby, feed me. Baby, feed me. Oh, feed me.
Time powerless to resist.
Employees of Budget Direct. Over 20 years, you have become the country's most award-winning insurer, providing top-notch cover for more than 3 million Australians. Will you fight to save people on their car and home insurance? Who are you?
Proudly saving Australians on insurance for 20 years. Budget Direct. Insurance solved.
Dad!
Oh, sorry. It's funny.
Dad!
Party purpose.
Bring your family together. Introducing Optus Family Plan with 4 SIMs and 250 gigs of data to share.
Make sure you're totally ready when it's time to present to your most important audience ever. Unlike ordinary toothpaste, Colgate Total's breakthrough formula actively fights bacteria on your teeth, tongue, cheeks and gums for 12 hours, keeping your whole mouth healthy. Colgate Total. Be totally ready for life.
Kill bacteria that can cause sore throats fast with Betadine Sore Throat Gargle. Or treat and relieve with new Betadine Gargle and Lozenges Kit.
We want to tow into a wave with a helicopter.
I don't even know if it's possible.
The speed was just outrageous.
One of the toughest things I've ever done.
The power's in your hands and at your feet.
the BMW 320i sedan from $69,900 drive away. Joy is coming.
The total picture, the full story, the answers you need. Every night, turn to 7 News at 6 o'clock.
I'm your dad. Why'd you choose now to come and find me?
You're just taking me for a ride.
When he finds out the true reason his dad's here, it could break his heart.
You need to tell him what's going on. If you don't tell him, I will.
Home and Away, next on 7.
This weather report brought to you by the BMW 3 Series.
In today's main stories, police are carrying out a major investigation into the death of a 4-year-old girl found inside a Cannon Hill home. And a stricken container ship is on its way to Brisbane. The APL England was smashed by wild seas, sending dozens of containers overboard. For more than a month, hundreds of people with nowhere else to go have called Brisbane hotels home. The rushed relocation of the vulnerable has seen fear spread, but those at the heart of this issue feel they've been punished for the actions of a few.
The centre of Brisbane, almost deserted, cold, but people like Mark McIntyre have never felt so warm, so safe.
Just a bed-sitter type thing.
Nice new furniture and everything.
It's 4-star, and I'll tell you what, I like it, I love it. We've got internet TV, aircon, nice hot shower.
The pandemic has eased an epidemic, homelessness. People who used to sleep rough now staying in hotels.
It's luxury that a lot of us haven't experienced before.
The state government is spending $24 million housing up to 900 vulnerable people across more than a dozen Brisbane hotels to spare them and others from coronavirus.
And it's really shown quite clearly what the homelessness situation is in Brisbane and what we need to do about it.
In Toowong, neighbours weren't warned before 300 temporary tenants arrived at 33 Glen Road. Security is now on guard at all hours, while in the CBD, police have increased patrols too, after 73 arrests in 1 week for assaults, theft, domestic violence and drug possession.
A lot of the bad ones have already, were kicked out last week. They'll make a huge mess. They won't clean up after themselves.
Very different from what it used to be. I don't feel safe getting to work in the morning.
Barrister Sarah Christie works across from the George Williams Hotel.
We weren't told that it was being turned into a homeless shelter. Coffee cups are being thrown at people, so water bottles, and there's sort of verbal abuse going on as well.
Businesses there won't speak out, worried they'll become a target. One couple who've been operating here for 15 years tell me they've never had an issue with homeless people until now. This is the first time they've feared coming to work.
Change their hours and shut down shops at various points, and they shouldn't be put in that position at all.
Further along George Street, rooms at 4-star Oaks Casino Towers were also being used.
We had everything we need, the laundry, the kitchen, it was great.
Until 2 weeks ago.
Out of nowhere, we got a phone call from reception saying that they wanted us out.
They said there was 7 rooms that they had problems with, so 7 out of 70 is no reason to kick 70 people out, you know what I mean?
After 2 years sleeping rough, Sal and Damien found themselves on the street again.
Made you feel like dirt.
Not knowing, what's going to happen next.
Relieved when Micah Projects helped them relocate, they call the Annerley Motor Inn home for now.
We need more subsidised private rental and we need more social housing.
There's a lot of construction happening with social housing units, but there's always going to be more demand than there is housing stock.
Mac Lyon, 7 News.
Now let's get the latest on the weather with Tony.
Thank you, Sharyn. Hello again, everyone. After that cold of Saturday, a bit of a shock to some, today offered more sunshine to help people warm up a little bit across the southeast. Let's check those temperatures. Most inland spots dropped to single figures, then top temperatures near or just below the May average. 12 up to 25 degrees in Brisbane, 4 overnight, then a top of 25 in Beaudesert, and Toowoomba a little bit cooler today with a top of 19 degrees. Onto the satellite, clear skies for much of Queensland. We've seen cool southwesterly winds driven by a low off the New South Wales coast. Frost as far north as the Atherton Tablelands and some large swells from that low on our beaches. In the west, a huge weather system here has slammed into the coast there, bringing wild conditions over the past 24 hours. Tomorrow, that system will weaken and move into central parts of Australia. That east coast low off New South Wales will also weaken, but not too much change in Queensland. Mostly sunny skies and another cool morning. Around the capital, showers continue in Perth, though winds will ease a little bit. 17 degrees there, a shower or two remaining in Sydney too, and dry and cool across the southeast. Back to northern Queensland, mostly sunny across the board after another cool morning. As I mentioned, frost for the Atherton Tablelands this morning. Tomorrow, probably a degree or so warmer, so it will be patchy if it happens. Cairns 26 degrees, Townsville a sunny 24. In the south, a similar story. Some patchy frost on the Granite Belt and southern inland spots, then sunny skies to follow. Roma 3 up to 20 degrees and Stanthorpe a top of 18. Now, across the southeast, keep the thick doona handy tonight, but you will be able to get some lighter clothes out during the day tomorrow if you can get into that sunshine. Logan tracking for 24 degrees and the Gold Coast 9 up to 24. Across the suburbs, be careful hopping out of the car. The air is dry enough to get some of those static shocks at the moment. Mount Gravatt 10 to 23 degrees. Bodie's westerly winds at 20 knots in the Outer Bay early morning, easing back to variable in the afternoon, and southerly swells still up at 2.5 metres offshore. So in Brisbane, we can almost copy and paste today. 12 overnight, a sunny top of 24 degrees. Then looking further ahead, not too much change in the next week. Staying dry, slightly warmer nights. Wednesday and Thursday, 14 to 25 degrees. In Ipswich, single figures at night, but the days will get a little bit warmer. A few 26s dotted across the next week. Gold Coasters staying dry into next weekend. We're looking at tops of 24 degrees if you're planning to get out and about. And onto the Sunshine Coast forecast, a slim chance of a shower on Friday, but steady temperatures all the way through to the end of autumn and the start of winter. That will be next Monday.
Thanks, Tony, and that is all from us this Monday.
Thanks for your company. From all the team, have a good night.
Good night.
Closer each day.